not the kind of cold that beat your ears, nose and chin, beat everything that stuck out of the large scarf your grandmother wrapped around your face and that painted it red. Not the kind of cold that made your fingers numb. Not that kind of cold that would keep meat and sausages hung outside windows fresh. It was a different kind of cold. The cold Naphtali felt when passing by some of his neighbors who would not look at him and would mutter something under their breath. One time, when he was walking along the street, a large horse-drawn carriage was driven at him by a drunken coachman who was laughing, ha ha ha, watching as Naphtali scrambled for cover to escape the horse hoofs. Another time, when his kitten disappeared, a different neighbor grinned at seeing Naphtali cry and search for mercy. And yet another time, an unknown man at the market grabbed Naphtali's yarmulke and threw it so high that it reached the top of a birch tree and stayed there, stuck on one of the branches. Naphtali's father loved to say that the frost froze not only those people's noses and ears, but it reached their hearts. But is everybody like that? Asked Naphtali. No, answered his father, who was known in Tulchin, the town where they lived, as a wise man. Frost tries to numb everybody and reach people's hearts with its icy hands. And that's why you need to do something every day to thaw your heart. Frost has its strength, but people who resist it always win. And how do you thaw your heart? Asked Naphtali. You do something warm, answered his father. Remember when everybody gathers at our house and tells stories and sings and prays? It feels like we don't need to put more wood into the stove, and that suddenly our usually cold room has become warm. Yes, I remember. Naphtali seemed surprised. It is indeed true. And what else can you do to thaw your heart? You can warm a samovar, said his father, and invite your friends so that they can warm up too while drinking some tea. Now I understand, said Naphtali, why there are always so many people in our house during Shabbat. Naphtali's father was a learned man. During the day, he was a station master, supplying travelers from far away with horses and serving them borscht and hot tea. And in the evenings, he studied the Torah. Many Jews who lived in the city of Tulchin came to him when they had questions about something in the Torah or Talmud, two major Jewish religious books. When they were discussing something, it was very loud in their house. Everybody was shouting and seemed very angry. But then, after the discussion had ended, people left with smiles on their faces as though studying made them much happier. But it was not only religious matters they were discussing. Sometimes the conversation drifted similarly to a schoolboy who dutifully walked to yeshiva, but then saw a traveling circus and forgot about his studies. Suddenly, somebody would sigh and say, I wonder how Yankel is now doing in America. And then everybody guessed what their former neighbor, who left 2 Tulchin with his brood had achieved there. I heard that in America people have forgotten how to walk, would say one guest, because they have such good railroads. They don't need horses like we need them here. Their horses do not carry water or logs like ours do. Their horses are only used for racing, because everybody in America is very rich and doesn't know where to spend his savings. I heard that in New York you could be blinded by electric lights on the street, not like here in Tulchin, where you can break your leg coming home in the complete darkness. I heard that with special machines, Americans can sew a woman's shoe in 30 minutes. And people there have so many pairs of shoes that they can't fit on one shelf. While our children sometimes have to wait for their turn to go to school because they need to wear their brother's pair of shoes. This is all rubbish, Naphtali's father would say, and everybody would quiet down. Money and horse races? This is not what a dutiful pupil of the Torah should occupy himself with. There are other more important things in life. What do you mean, Lazar Yevseevich? The guests would ask. And Naphtali's father would speak very slowly so that everybody would understand the importance and weight of his words. I heard that in the United States people are free, he would say, and all the guests would look at him with brightened eyes. There, in America, Jews can go anywhere to live, wherever they want. Do you mean that we could choose the best city in the US, the one with paved roads and city lights and many jobs and shops and universities, and live there? Yes, you surely can. This would be incredible, the guests would say, because here we cannot live in Moscow or St. Petersburg or other large cities unless we are doctors or bankers. But we are neither doctors or bankers. We are blacksmiths and shoemakers and tailors and yeshiva teachers and even milkmen. And also, Naphtali's father would say, in America, our kids would go to school with non-Jewish kids and nobody would be surprised. Do you mean that our kids could apply to American universities and if they did good and studied well, they would be admitted? Asked the guests. And again, in their eyes, hope would glimmer. Yes, this is true. Naphtali's father would nod. This would be incredible, the guests would say, because here, if there are 100 places in the university, you need to be smarter than 97 kids, since there are only 3 places for Jews. Only 3% in Russian schools. And our sacred books would be safe in America. Nobody would dare to burn them. A boy's voice shouted suddenly, and everybody became silent, and their faces assumed a serious expression. It was not because a boy was not allowed to speak up when adults were talking. Quite the opposite. Naphtali's father always encouraged his son to participate in conversations as an equal to grown men. It was because everybody still remembered how one night drunken Cossacks broke into a synagogue, took the Torah and other books from there and set them on fire. The Jews had looked out of their windows and seen the huge flame, but they could not do anything. This was not the first time such a thing had happened. The year before, when a young man ran out of his home and tried to save the books, he was beaten by a mob and then had to lie in bed for several months, sick from his injuries. One of the neighbors ran for the police, but the police never came. The guests became very upset after the words they heard from Naphtali. They knew that he was right. And they knew that somewhere there, far away from Russia, there was another country. Perhaps America. Perhaps Ireland. Perhaps Argentina, where there was a better life waiting for them. To sleep.
Unter jeder Wegele steht ein Chlormeißigele. Das Siegele ist gewonnen. Das wird mein Beruf. Roschinkas mit Mänden.
His mother told him that when he was very young, he almost never closed his eyes and carefully studied what was around him and still kept crying. Isn't it strange, she asked, when you had nothing to do after I fed you and turned you from your back onto your stomach when you wanted to, and then raised you up high on your pillows so that you could look around, you were always awake. And because you were awake, I never could sleep, because I always had to watch what you were doing. You know, she continued, that behavior of little babies could be disastrous. They might swallow a button or put up a pea up their nose. But when you grew up, you suddenly were able to do many things. Take a walk without help, without your mother holding your hand, climb a tree, even swim. And you would never get those crazy ideas like putting raspberries into your ears. And isn't it surprising that now you prefer to sleep after dinner instead of playing with your friends or helping me? So when there was almost nothing to miss besides a mother who would breastfeed you and teach you to smile back when you were very young, you never closed your eyes. And when you grew up, when there is so much to do and observe, you'd rather sleep a lot, as though there is too much for you to handle. But Naphtali was not listening to what his mother was saying. He was turning from one side to the other, trying to steal at least 2 or 3 minutes of extra sleep. First of all, he knew that today was Saturday, and on Saturdays he, like other Jewish kids and grown-ups, didn't have to do any chores. And second of all, he was trying to finish watching his dream, which was about a warm sea. A sea. Suddenly, Naphtali remembered that today was the day when he was supposed to go to the river with his friend Soma Dworkin. He jumped from bed and started hastily dressing, knowing that Soma would come any minute. Naphtali was excited because it was the first time that his mother was allowing him to go far away from home without her or his father. Physically, Soma was the complete opposite of Naphtali, but he had a similar temper and interests. Naphtali was of medium height and thin, wore glasses and had freckles which for some mysterious reason appeared on his nose and cheeks only in spring. So, but no Tsar could restrain Naphtali's and Soma's imagination. A Jewish wanderer could probably never have been a sailor, but this fact did not prevent Soma and Naphtali from being sailors themselves. It was enough for them to unfold the map and imagine themselves as brave sailors conquering storms. They could go to any country without showing their passports. They would just board their ship, which they called Nadezhda, or hope in Russian, and off they would go. One day, a while back, as he was standing in front of his home, a small hut with a broken roof covered with hay, Soma held the map in one hand, pretending that he was closely studying it. And with the other hand, he waved at his mother, who was looking out of the window. "Bye-bye, my beautiful Shulamith!" he shouted. "Your mom's name is not Shulamith, it's Chaya." Naphtali objected while Soma's mother, used to her son's behavior, only put her index finger to her temple, twirled it, and laughed, a gesture indicating that somebody is not in their right mind. "Stop interrupting me," Soma said angrily. "If you have nobody at home to say your farewell to, just keep silent and wait." "Why don't I have anybody at home? I have my mother and father," retorted Naphtali, "and I have my favorite horses. Maybe they're not as smart as people, but they're as kind and maybe even more so." But Soma, without answering Naphtali, suddenly fell on his knees and started wailing. "My dear Shulamith, how can I be without you on my long trip where there won't be anybody to listen to my cries besides the night's silence, the fishes, and the moon?" "Are you talking about the daughter of the Shochet on whom you spied yesterday?" Naphtali inquired with a suspicion. Shochet in Yiddish is a person who prepares poultry in a kosher way. But Soma continued his wailing. "My beautiful Shulamith, your eyes are like shining stars. Your hair is like grapevines. I cannot leave you here alone. Listen, listen to the waves whisper, which will bring you news about your faithful sailor." "What rubbish are you bumbling?" An irritated Naphtali raised his hands in the air. "Besides, her name is not Shulamith. Whatever it is, it's not Shulamith. I don't think the Shochet's daughter's name is Shulamith at all. And it's not so beautiful and biblical. It's something very simple. It's like Mera, Shera, or Sarah, or Fira. Now, I even remember I heard her father calling her Mirachka. I once knew a sheep named Mirachka. It's not such a worthy name, trust me." "Can't you just shut up?" Soma pleaded, mad that he had to interrupt his wailing for a minute. "Everybody knows that sailors leave their wives and fiancés back on shore and that they cry and long for them. And if I need to choose a name for a wife, let it be the most beautiful name, like in the Bible, in the Song of Songs, in the story about Shulamith. If I can choose, and my imagination knows no limits, I should choose only the best, right?" "I agree," Naphtali said. "I want to show you what I would like to choose then. Do you have a map of Russia?" "Sure." Soma reached into a pile of maps wrapped into some faded fabric. "Which one do you want?" "I have one of geological expeditions, I have one of the Crimean War, and I have one which my father marked with a Pale of Settlement line. There you can see where Jews can and cannot live." "Give me that one!" exclaimed Naphtali impatiently. "Look," he said, "according to this Pale of Settlement, ordered by the Tsar, Jews can't live in Kursk or Oryol or Smolensk. We can't live in so many places. We can't even live in Yalta. But in my imagination, I can board a ship and sail on the Black Sea and catch a lot of fish. So many fish that they won't fit on my ship. And to unload this fish, I would stop in Yalta. No, wait, you will sail to Yalta and you will see your Shulamith there, right?" "If you're going to laugh at me again," Soma snapped, "I will never let you sail with my maps. You can forget about even looking at them if you're going to say something nasty." "No, I'm not going to say anything nasty," said Naphtali. "Just wait. Imagine you meet a pretty girl there and she invites you to live in her home just because she has a lot of space there. And then, because of the Pale of Settlement, you can't. But because they are playing using our imagination, you surely can. You can live in Yalta. And the boys looked at the map and imagined how nice it would be if there were no Pale of Settlement and they and their parents could live anywhere they wanted. Their imagination knew no limits. In their mind, they indeed were traveling from Tulchin to Moscow and to Oryol and to Smolensk. And nobody could stop them or say that they did not belong there. Finally, Naftali's family made the decision to leave Russia. Under the sponsorship of Austrian philanthropist Baron Maurice de Hirsch, they were offered a choice to live in a free country, in a country where, as Baron assumed, there will be no anti-Semitism and where they'll be able to own some land and start farming. They gathered all their belongings and, together with other Jews from Russia, full of hopes and fear, moved to Argentina. Turned out that the hotel that somebody was preparing for them was not ready yet, and they were advised by local authorities to continue sailing to another small city, where they would be offered some other kind of arrangements. Other kind of arrangements? Asked Naftali's father skeptically. I hope we are not going to sleep on the floor. As long as there is a roof over my head, I'm happy, retorted Naftali's father optimistically. even though he started looking less and less optimistic with every new news that bombarded them. Preoccupied with their journey's difficulties, he became less strict with Naphtali. Now it was Naphtali's mother who became more agitated and often showed displeasure. Definitely, their move to Argentina took a toll on everybody. "But I'm so tired," Naphtali exclaimed. "I can't stay here any longer. During all this time on the ship, I made no friends, and even the young woman who saved me is gone. My stomach is hurting, and I can't stand this dirty soup with cabbage leaves anymore. I can't stand how my coat smells. Enough is enough." "I've had enough too," said Naphtali's mother. "And I'm not even sure if it was a good idea to sail on the ship to Argentina. What if we had stayed in Russia? Maybe the Cossacks wouldn't touch us at all. Some people were able to survive the pogroms. To be honest, I'm even starting to miss our home. After so many days on the ship." "Let me tell you something," chipped in Naphtali's father, "and I hope that this snippet of wisdom will make your life better." "I've had enough of your snippets of wisdom," objected Naphtali's mother and turned away. She put her face into her hands as she always did when she was ready to cry. Naphtali felt sympathy for her and rushed to give her a hug. Meanwhile, Naphtali's father relentlessly addressed him. "Do you have 2 pockets?" "Yes, in my trousers," answered Naphtali with surprise in his voice. "Imagine that your pockets are filled with words," announced Naphtali's father. Apparently, he was somehow energizing himself with this anecdote, since he again looked eager to live and explore. Naphtali kissed his mother on the cheek, so that she was not going to cry anymore, and looked at his father attentively. His mother didn't look directly at them, but she was listening too. "In one pocket there is one kind of words, and in another pocket another kind of words. In your left pocket there are these words: you are the most precious, since you were created in the image of God. And in your right pocket there are these words: you are just ashes, you are one of many. When you are feeling bad and depressed, you should reach into your left pocket and always remember that there are miracles awaiting us and that we are His creation. When you are feeling that you are on top of the world, you should stay humble and reach into your right pocket, reminding yourself that you are just ashes and dust. I'm not sure about ashes and such, but for dust, I'm completely covered by it, exclaimed Naphtali's mother sardonically. I don't remember when I was able to wash properly on this ship. Which pocket should we reach into right now? Naphtali asked. Surely both your mother and you are not so happy right now, and you might even be discouraged by this long and difficult trip. But remember that there will be a ray of hope, and that He is looking at us. This should lift you up. Naphtali's father said, trying to be optimistic, but his face was quite sad. Naphtali saw that both of his parents were worn out by this lengthened journey. Even though his father tried to cheer them up, it looked like finally he was exhausted himself. One more day passed, and it was announced that they had reached their new destination. The disembarkation went smoothly, because none of the passengers were rushing to come down the ladder, afraid that again they would be given false signals and be asked to return. However, even after they had disembarked, the journey continued. All the passengers had to present their papers, and when they were taken in a procession of carriages to a rural and quite deserted area, next to a dilapidated train station. Upon seeing the train cars lined up on the railway, Naphtali exclaimed, "Are we again going to board the train? I thought we already reached our destination." "I think it's a mistake," answered his father, dumbfounded. He looked confused, as did others in their group. They were standing in the middle of an empty field, with their sacks and their hopes, with their kids and new plans, not knowing what to expect, but still wishing for the best for themselves and for their offspring. Several men approached the official, who had met their ship and traveled with them to the train station, and started gesticulating. Apparently they didn't like the area they were taken to. Naphtali looked around. An almost bare steppe with dry yellow grass and nothing inside besides the succession of old-looking train cars on the rusty railway. Suddenly, he noticed that one of the railway lines simply ended in the middle of nowhere in whitish sand, and pointed it out to his father. "I guess this means we've arrived," answered his father, looking confused. "But since this area is pretty far from the land we had purchased, I'm not sure how we're going to reach it from here." It should be noted that Naphtali's father had purchased some land in Buenos Aires while in Russia, which later proved to be a hoax. But for now, he has no idea, he just owns a piece of paper. The official, who had a briefcase and refused to talk to the several men still gesticulating around him, approached their group. "This is where you're going to live. Choose one of the cars that you like and start making yourself comfortable. This is your home." "Are we going to go somewhere in these cars?" asked Naphtali, not understanding what the official meant. "I see that the railway is broken." "This is not a train," smiled the official. "It just looks like one. Obviously, you can imagine that you're journeying in it. You can even dream that you will continue traveling. When I was a boy of your age, I dreamed about all kinds of things. In your mind, you can go anywhere you want on this train. To Brazil, to Africa, to the North Pole. But in reality, these are just abandoned and useless train cars that we decided to give to you, to live in for a while, until we find some other arrangements for you. We own a large piece of land somewhere south of Buenos Aires," proudly exclaimed Naphtali's father. "This means that we won't stay here for long. Very soon we'll go to our own land and start farming." One of the men, who stood close to Naphtali's father, said bitterly, "We thought we were going to our new home, not to a train station again." "This is your home," repeated the official. "Maybe we were promised many things in Russia, but for now this is all we can offer to you. Eventually, maybe, we'll move you to real homes, but now they're not ready, so be happy that you have a roof over your head." With these words, the official patted Naphtali on the back, smiled at him broadly, and quickly departed. After the long journey on the ship and the ride in uncomfortable, crowded carriages, the people were worn out, so without too much arguing, they carried their luggage onto the train, lay down on cold, stiff benches, and, forgetting a supper, fell asleep.
Sing
if the railway lines are destroyed. I guess this means we've arrived, answered his father, looking confused. But since this area is pretty far from the land we had purchased, I'm not sure how we're going to reach it from here. It should be noted that Naftali's father had purchased some land in Buenos Aires while in Russia, which later proved to be a hoax. But for now, he has no idea, he just owns a piece of paper. The official, who had a briefcase and refused to talk to the several men still gesticulating around him, approached the group. This is where you're going to live. Choose one of the cars that you like and start making yourself comfortable. This is your home. Are we going to go somewhere in these cars? Asked Naftali, not understanding what the official meant. I see that the railway is broken. This is not a train, smiled the official. It just looks like one. Obviously, you can imagine that you're journeying in it. You can even dream that you will continue traveling. When I was a boy of your age, I dreamed about all kinds of things. In your mind, you can go anywhere you want on this train. To Brazil, to Africa, to the North Pole. But in reality, these are just abandoned and useless train cars that we decided to give to you, to live in for a while, until we find some other arrangements for you. We own a large piece of land somewhere south of Buenos Aires. Proudly exclaimed Naftali's father. This means that we won't stay here for long. Very soon we'll go to our own land and start farming. One of the men, who stood close to Naftali's father, said bitterly, we thought we were going to our new home, not to a train station again. This is your home, repeated the official. Maybe we were promised many things in Russia, but for now this is all we can offer to you. Eventually, maybe, we'll move you to real homes, but now they're not ready, so be happy that you have a roof over your head. With these words, the official patted Naftali on the back, smiled at him broadly, and quickly departed. After the long journey on the ship and the ride in uncomfortable, crowded carriages, the people were worn out. So, without too much arguing, they carried their luggage onto the train, lay down on cold, stiff benches, and, forgetting a supper, fell asleep.